Hello, everyone and everybody. I'm Catnap. You can call me Cat, and welcome to Coffee with Cupid. Hi, hello. Welcome if you're new, or welcome back if you've been here before. Today is episode 3, and what's so exciting about today's episode is I'm finally jumping into fashion. I am a huge fashion person. I minored in it for a little bit until I realized, I don't want to go to another campus to finish this, as well as, I'm so allergic to one of these classes that are needed for graduation, and I feel like it's not fair if I accommodate to the point that it's not really the same class. I'm not really learning the same thing. I don't really want to deal with that. But I did have a fashion minor, or was a fashion minor for a very long time. I dropped it like my last semester of college. But yeah, so I got pretty far within it, and I'm big chillin' with it, and I have a lot of opinions and a lot of beliefs within it. And in my first episode, a lot of people actually wanted me to talk about fashion and speak on it and my opinions and just other things about that fashion history. Of course, today is more opinion based because I was supposed to say, like, slowly sink myself into it. But since it's opinion, I'm kind of jumping into the deep end. But I think that's fun. That's I really love about fashion is that it really can be anything you want it to be. And I think that's beautiful, especially because fashion is art. It's a way to express yourself, define yourself, or just be able to be creative in a way that's different, in a way that is so cool, especially when you can use other people as your canvas. And I think that's really incredible. For me wise, specifically when I was getting my minor, I did focus more into history and business side of things because of course I am a business major at the end of the day. But I do dabble in making my own clothes and design and other things like that. And I would love to finish out the minor eventually or just continue pursuing that hobby. Also, before I forget, I am sipping on some Coca-Cola. I know not coffee, but it helps me get through the day. What are y'all sipping on? I'm curious. But yeah, so in today's video, like I said, it's about fashion and how like, it's used to define yourself or show off who you are, and I think that's really incredible, especially because, there's so many types of fashion, especially at different points of the world, and how there's so many similarities yet differences, and how what is defined as masculine and feminine changes depending on where you're located. Like how here in the West, we are definitely more, um, I wouldn't say conservative with it, but definitely like when people are defining those structures of how masked people are supposed to dress and how femme people are supposed to dress. It's so different compared to the East. I'm half Vietnamese, and we have our traditional clothing, which is like dress like, and both men and women wear it, but it's not seen as demasculizing or defeminizing. It's just that's our traditional wear. And it's so fascinating that here in the West in America, it's not seen the same way. And it's kind of unfortunate, not kind of, it is unfortunate that um we hold ourselves to these systems that can be detrimental to one's being and can enforce overly um like what's it called? Oh my gosh, um not what's it called? Not unhealthy masculinity. It's I know you guys probably know what I'm talking about, but the the action of being so masculine that it kind of takes away the person's being. And then there's over femininity or hyper femininity, which I am very femme. I will state that. But I like to see it as drag and being able to dress myself up because I think it's beautiful and I think we have more options and I like the options that are there. That's the main reason why I do it. Um, but the thing about fashion is that there is no bounds to it except what you have available to you. And you can flip it in any way you want. And that's what's beautiful. You can have like three pieces of clothing and wear it differently every time. And I love that. And the way you express yourself changes as you get older. I remember um when like from late elementary school to middle school to high school to even now throughout college and then graduation, there's so many stages of my fashion that has changed and developed, and I found myself through it. And it was such a way that when I look back at those photos and look back at myself, I can see where I'm at purely by the choices of clothing. I can see where I was with my identity journey and what I wanted to do when I grew up and things like that. And it's so cool to see a timeline with it all. In middle school, I went to a school where we had to wear uniforms. And I was pretty okay with that. And then on certain Fridays, we could play a dollar and dress up however we want, of course, within dress code. And I always like to wear cargo pants, which is so that's crazy. Cargo pants and like a tank that had the sleeves were like thick because of course we weren't allowed to wear noodle straps and a little like shawl over it, which it was cute. I won't lie, it was kind of cute, but it sounds crazy in retrospect. And then it slowly moved into once I'm in middle school, like fully in middle school. Well, my last year, technically. My middle school years were weird because I went through two different schools, and one of them, middle school, didn't start until seventh and eighth grade. And then my second middle school, it was sixth to eighth. And so things were a little different once I switched because I was like, what is going on? What's going on? And in the eighth grade, we had no uniforms. I could dress however I wanted. I remember I sometimes would wear oversized clothes, or sometimes it wouldn't be oversized, and like this and that. And that's where I really found out that like red lipstick looks great on me, and that um, I really like wearing the color green, even though green is not one of my favorite colors. It's definitely, I don't dislike it, but I think it looks. It's really good with my skin color because my skin color is more of a golden olive color with neutral undertones, like gray. Um, that's my white side coming in. Um, so greens look great on me, and more, I would say, spring colors look great on me. And so it was so cool discovering that. Of course, it was hard because it's like you're in eighth grade and everything feels wrong, and my proportions weren't right because I wasn't growing anymore, but like my my face and my body was still like trying to understand like where it was going, and so I was a little blocky, and like I was still a cutie. I think I look very similar to what I did then. Of course, I just look older and more mature, but at the time I didn't feel like that. And I feel like a lot of people go through that because, puberty and being a preteen, everything feels like it's going against you, and your emotions are so big, and you just are finally understanding how to process it in that extreme. It doesn't help that my emotions have always been too big for my body, and it continues to be like that, but it is what it is. And I remember in high school, my freshman year, it was kind of like slowly moving towards over shirts, like button ups, but I would have it unbuttoned with a tank top and a skirt underneath it. And that was really fun and really cute. And it started going more into business casual alternative, which is very much what I am still am, but it would start growing from there. And then I remember my sophomore year, started wearing corsets and more skirts. I was willing to get more out there. I had a heart choker necklace that's kind of similar to what I'm wearing right now for my model, um, and other things like that. And I was able to expand, especially because it was COVID. So, um, during COVID, I really was able to explore my identity and explore what I really liked about myself and how I wanted to show it off and like in a sense of like, who am I? Of course, I still don't know, but I'm a little closer to the discovery. And then I also was part of swing club, which is swing dance. It is a form of 1940s to 1950s West Coast swing, and I eventually became president of the club and things like that. So I really loved and still love 1940s to 1950s fashions. Fitted flares look great on me, especially if it's a corseted back. Um, I live for the hairstyles. When I had very long hair, I used to love doing bump ups or curls, with the side ponies and other things like that. Just putting a hell lot of gel in my hair and hoping for the best. And that was something I really love was the like blouses with high-waisted shorts and red lipstick in the era of that because red lipstick, I always wear red lipstick. It's very much my staple. It's been my staple since that like 8th grade when I started wearing it and that stuff. And I started wearing it because I had it in dance and I stopped doing dance for a little bit and I was like, I don't want to put this to waste. It costs so much fucking money and um, and I got scholarship for it. I'm not wasting it because during this time I was also homeless. So it's like trying to figure out things and develop and understand fashion with limits to be able to be myself. Of course, after middle school, we found a home and that stuff. So that's why I was able to become more diverse with it. And I got a job. I got my first job at like 16, right when I turned 16. And I was so excited. I love that job. It was awful, but I managed to make income and I managed to work like night shifts after school with my twin sister, and the people there were lovely, and I really enjoyed my night shifts with like it was a group of us, it was 5 of us, and it was always the same 5 people, and we would play music and we would get shit done. It was great, but that's obviously besides the point. I'm reminiscing at this point. Um, and then But I remember when I was able to save enough money and I had a little extra and I bought my first like shirt for myself. It was a black little tank top. And I was so excited and I wore it nonstop. I still have it. I still wear it. Because of course I haven't grown since 6th grade. That's a little small on me because um yeah, because I matured a bit. But yeah, and so I remember like COVID time, I started um, testing out what I was gonna wear and other things like that. And also going through dyeing my hair. I'm allergic to artificial colorings. So it's really hard to find dyes that I'm not allergic to. Because I'm allergic to most. So I remember I found this like fiery red color that I was not allergic to, and I smelled like strawberries and I bleached my lower side of my hair, which I had to get the specialized vegan bleach for that cost an arm and a leg. But at the time, it was a good price. Nowadays, it's not because it's one of the few brands and high demand, of course, because it is as good as bleach can be for your hair. It didn't damage my hair a lot, especially because I have to bleach a lot because I have black hair. So it's like you really have to remove the color a lot to be able to get it to like a point to be able to dye it. So I remember I dyed it like bleached blonde. Like I never went to my roots. That's a huge thing about me. I will never dye my roots. I will never dye the top area of my hair. It will only ever be the underside, like a peekaboo or half and half ombre because I'm not playing those games. I'm not losing my hair. If I'm going to, it's going to be at a length that I'm happy with. But I I did that, and then I did underside peekaboo, and then I did like a like buzz cut underneath with very long hair. That's the thing about me as well. I have very thin hair, but I have a lot of it to the point that when I had long hair, half my hair was gone and you couldn't tell because I would do a undercut, like a buzz cut underneath it, and then have my hair that's on the top of my head, of course, and nobody knew until I put my hair up because I just have so much that it's just there's so much to do with it and it grows really fast. So I do have to cut my hair frequently. Once again, besides the point, little fun facts about me. Um, but fashion is so amazing in a way where you can just see it change. And then in college, I still wear corsets and that stuff, but slowly started moving towards, I wear shorts a lot more because um, skirts are really hard to find. Um, and yeah, yeah, that's like, it's really hard to find skirts that that fit me, and other things like that, or I like them because I usually don't like the textures, or they're like too long, or they're too short, which I love belt skirts, but I had to have like tights underneath it. And I live in a place that's really hot, so you can't really layer in that way. Um, so it makes it a little more difficult. So I started wearing more shorts, and then I started like experimenting with jorts. I love jorts. They're so fun. They're like I love dressing up like a mom from the 90s. And then I started doing more like cut out shirts, and I started wearing more dresses. I've always been a dress person, but not to this extreme. And had dresses that have undercuts, so you can kind of see my underboob, not gonna lie. But I look so good in it, so I big slay with it. But it's like it's just so incredible, and I'm at a place where I'm really happy with my fashion. But it's like I never had one point where I was like, "Oh, this is my fashion, this is why." And this is what I do, so I'm only gonna buy within this. And I feel like a lot of people relate to that. I believe that a lot of people kinda put themselves in a box out of fear of being seen as a poser. Because I remember when I was like I'm alternative, that's how I dress. My hair is alternative, even though it's still like not unfortunately, because I live for it. It is kind of business casual alternative. That's the best way I can describe it. It's very like I'm a baddie, but like I'm a business baddie. Okay, that's besides the point. But I I forgot where I was going because I started laughing myself because it was kind of cringe what I just said. But it's tea. Um, like I feel like a lot of people are scared about it because I remember when I was like going more into alternative fashions and more like darker clothes. It was kind of more like e-girl era, but I wasn't an e-girl, but that's the best way I can that's the time frame, like that type of alternative. I was scared that if I wore normal clothes, people would think that I was faking. And like nobody should be afraid of that. And nobody should police it in a way. Of course, there are people who do it to be like mainstream and that stuff. It kind of take away the meaning of a lot of the clothes, and of course, that's a important thing. Like punk and that stuff. Punk comes from a alternative fashion, and alternative beliefs that are from the norm to be able to stand up and advocate for one's rights and things like that. Of course, if you're going to go in there, say you're punk and not be in that mindset and other things like that, are you really punk? Like that of course there's like things to it and like yeah. I keep on getting okay, this is completely sidetracked. I keep on getting these like punk teens singing about how much they hate AI and I live for it. It's so amazing. I completely forgot what the band is called because it's been a couple days. So I got them like nonstop for like 3 days straight. And it was great because I was like, we haven't had this in a long time. Yippee! Resurgence! Yippee! You know? Um, but it's like, of course, like to be in certain like demographics of alternativeness. I guess that's how I'm gonna phrase it. You do have to fit in some standards, of course. That's why they are subgenres, you know? But like you shouldn't be afraid of expressing yourself in different ways, and feel like you have to stick in one box because that's just not reality. We're everybody is you know, 3D. We're not just 2D undeveloped characters. We all have our own identities and we all have things that we are looking forward to and things that we define ourselves with. And like, there's some people, like, their workplace won't allow them to dress alternative, but they are alternative at heart, and it's like, should we police that? No. Sorry, I, like, went on a little tangent, but I assume you guys get what I mean. But fashion is such a cool thing. It's such like, it's just so cool, and I love that I'm able to pursue it in some ways, either from how I dress, like I'm always over the top. I overdress. I remember like last week I went to drop off some things. I talked about it in my last Coffee with Cupid. The last one was about closure and going through things if you want to listen to that. You can. And during that time, it was really funny because one of my coworkers was like, "You dressed up for dropping off a name tag," and I was like, "This is my everyday like wear," and he was like, "Oh, my bad." It was so funny, but he meant it at the good of his heart. He's just blunt. I love him. He's awesome, but it's it's just like you know. And, like, there's some people who found their identity within that fashion, like, subgenre, and they stick to one, and they're still so diverse with it, and I love that. It's like people who find their niche and want to stick with it, that's beautiful. But people who realize they fit in different boxes, in different areas, and they want to explore that, that should be okay too without being told that they're a poser or that they don't really know their identity, that they don't know this and that because truly do any of us really know who we are at the end of the day? Because there's so many perspectives of us, and of course we have our own, and that's kind of the most important because that's how we view ourselves. Because at the end of the day, we're stuck with ourselves, not with others. But yeah, that's the tea. But that's kind of like the bit points that I wanted to talk about with fashion, that not everybody's one aesthetic and that we're all our unique aesthetics even if they're built off each other. It's like how everybody is a mix of everybody who they meet. What? No, that doesn't make any fucking sense. I think you guys get what I'm saying. That everybody is just we're why our stories are words from other stories? Is that what it's a phrase I'm trying to reference, but I do not brain empty, brain gone. But I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of Coffee with Cupid. I know it's I keep on saying I know it's a little shorter, but I usually film around 22 to 25 minutes. And maybe one day I'll get more longer with it or more diverse with it, especially with the history ones. When I do history ones, I'm hoping to do like research, maybe writing more bullet points, not a script. I can't do scripts, but something more like that. So I'm able to stay on topic a little bit more, but things like this where I'm just talking off the dome, opinion based, expressing things. I would love to hear what you guys have to say. How do you guys dress? What is fashion for y'all? I would love to hear. And if you made it this far, please like, subscribe, and comment down below. It helps out a lot for the channel. And yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.